What's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, and I am going to apologize in advance for the mic levels. I am outside in Florida. So I hope you guys can hear me okay. If there is anything wrong with the audio, please let me know in the chat, because I haven't been able to test anything out here. Anyway. So, yeah, I'm on vacation. And this popped out today, of course, the transcripts that we all knew were coming. And I was not actually going to stream anything about this today, but so many people were tagging me and asking me to do something on it. So I've tried to come up with something a little bit creative to do, because a full read-through is coming. Let me make that very clear. A full read-through is coming, and I have something special planned for the full read-through. It will be a collaborative video with some other personalities who will be revealed as soon as they're all locked down, and we will do a dramatic reenactment of it, hopefully live, and hopefully followed by a Q&A session, because I think there are some people involved that you may want to ask questions of other than me. So that is what we're going for, and hopefully we can get that all arranged and bring that to you. Look, I could have read through these documents for you tonight. I could have done that, but I think that this video, which will come out next week, and again, hopefully we'll be able to arrange it live, next week's video on it, which we will have, hopefully get Dick to promote on the Dick Show, so that everybody's clear on what time it's going to be. But check my... Once it's locked down, I'll announce it on Twitter, Facebook, everything, and then hopefully Dick will announce it as well. And I think that'll be a better product than me just drunkenly reading through it tonight, is having a bunch of people drunkenly reading through it. That'll be better. Did Maddox win the lawsuit? No, he did not. And I'm also going to apologize if there are any bitrate issues. I am on hotel internet, and I'm hoping it holds up. So, real quick, point of order. I have this, which I don't know if you guys can read because of the glare. This is Peg Leg Porker Bourbon Whiskey. So this is from the Peg Leg Porker barbecue restaurant in Nashville. I picked it up during my travels, and I figured I'd try it out tonight. Yeah, I'm doxing myself. That is a Lego guitar because I am at the Lego Resort. Bunny at Law. Couldn't have survived 1L without your podcast. Cheers, buddy. To the next 2 years. The first one is the worst. Enjoy the next two. So, we're going to give this a shot in just a second. And then we'll get to it. So, sweet. It smells really sweet. Bourbon. It's very good. It's got the sweetness of bourbon, but it does have a smoky kick to it. So the guy who makes this, like I said, he has a barbecue shop, and they actually filters the bourbon through smoked hickory chips. So, let me get to these super chats real quick. Yeah, Bunny at Law said, couldn't have survived 1L without your podcast. Heart back to you, my friend. Not Quite Nerd says, Rackets is edging us. Yes, I am always edging you. Garrett Davis says, here's 1/10 of another Peg Leg Porker 8-year. You'll have to convince these other heathens to make up the other 9/10 of a bottle. Cheers, buddy. Cheers, Garrett. Have you had this stuff? It's really good. And I will say the barbecue at Peg Leg Porker was delicious. It's Southeast barbecue, mostly pork focused. Obviously, Peg Leg Porker. They don't have any beef there, but it's still good. Man, that's great. Okay. No Fireball tonight, and never again. It's so disgusting. All right. So one thing I wanted to do tonight, a lot of people are focused on how bad, maybe Robert Thompson, I suppose. A lot of people are focused on how bad this went for Maddox and for Landau. And so I wanted to bring a little bit different perspective to it. I wanted to bring the, let me adjust this a little bit. I wanted to bring the possibility that Landau did a couple things well. And I'm serious about that. There are a couple things that he did just fine on in this hearing. And I want to make sure and shout out to him. Because, like, I can just sit all day and trash Landau and Maddox. Like, that, you know, I have no problem doing that. Makes me very happy. But I think it's better if we're fair. And, he spelled his name right. There you go. I think it's better if we're as fair as possible in assessing the quality of what happened. And so we're going to do that tonight. And so I'm going to get started going through that. Otherwise, I'll ramble on for an entire live stream for hours. But this was, of course, in front of the Honorable Charles E. Ramos. The day before or 2 days before, or maybe both, Patreon had their oral argument in front of the judge, and Landau would have been obviously there for that oral argument. So one thing you have to remember is that if his behavior in that hearing was anything close to what it was in this hearing, that Ramos was probably already annoyed going into the courtroom. And that warms my spirits a little bit. And you can kind of see that with how quick he is to jump on to Landau and kind of get after him. But money for Fireball. Oh, thanks, Kevin Soak. Oh. So and before I forget, the transcripts for Patreon are not out to my knowledge. They're not posted on the court's website. I don't know if they will be, but I will be ordering the transcripts for the Patreon hearing so we can get that full information too. I imagine it was very quickly dismissed with prejudice as far as Patreon, but I don't know. We don't actually know the result of that, but I will be getting the transcripts as soon as I can. Top chat to live chat. Oh, yes. Good call. If you guys get too rowdy on the top chat to live chat thing, I will have to change it back to a top chat. So, just a second here. So it is switched. Elijah Watson says, having to call judges your honor seems like BS that needs to die. You don't have to call judges your honor. You can actually say judge, which is pretty common as well. So, it becomes a habit, and we don't, you don't care anymore. It's something that you get used to so fast it becomes just second nature. And is there any honor in it? I don't think so. But Brett Andreessen says, here's the Patreon transcript. Did you agree to Patreon's terms? Yes, but dismissed with prejudice. Possibly. All right. So let's go into this a little bit. Now, again, I am not going to read through this whole thing. I've highlighted a couple parts. I didn't get to highlight the whole thing because I'm on vacation and just didn't have time to do that today. But once we get rolling, I think we'll get the gist of what's going on. So I have some highlighted parts to get us started. How many honorable judges have you met? I plead the fifth. Off topic, but if you get bored after the stream, check out the new Warhammer Adventures. Games Workshop is doing 40K for kids. Yeah, I saw. I can't wait to check them out and read them to my children. my buddy Stu commented on Games Workshop's post, and it's like something along the lines of, I can imagine reading this to my kids now. Hey, buddy, yeah, the universe is a horrible place that will kill you. The end. So, let's see. All right, Clay, you're fill-in mod. That's fine. All right, let's get to this document. Because again, I can joke and drink with you guys all night, but a lot of people are here for the documents. Yeah. And Clay, if you abuse that. Hey, Tess. If you abuse that, Clay, I will unmod you. We'll see how this goes. Tess is great at keeping the chat somewhat in order, so let's keep the chat flowing, guys, and keep it a little bit like the most mildly focused it can be. And just don't be crazy on me. All right. Okay. So let's get to the things that Landau did well. And the first one comes pretty early on, page 6 of 52 of the transcript. Page 6 of 52 is the judge, Judge Ramos, says, I have a hard time hearing a forum nonconvenience argument if I have defendants here. It's as inconvenient for them to go to Nevada or California as it is for you folks to be here. So this was the argument raised by Dick's attorney, Sarah Matz, that, and this was an ancillary argument, an add-on, if you will, that the New York forum is not a convenient forum. So the judge is here saying that as long as there are defendants in New York, it's a convenient forum. I think he's overlooking a part of the argument, but Landau did a good job letting the judge default to his position. So good job, Landau. You won that one. Tess, you can go to bed. I will adopt my new nickname, the God Esquire, whenever you guys want. You guys can call me that. I'll take it. So I want to point out that while Landau won the forum nonconvenience argument, he didn't say anything to win the argument, and I'm pretty sure that that's what he did well in this case. Because had he opened his mouth, I'm sure he would have ruined it in some way. But the forum nonconvenience argument was a throwaway argument because there's no... It was like, if the court somehow finds jurisdiction, at least there's this inconvenient forum argument. And had the plaintiffs had the opportunity, or the defendants had the opportunity to really make the nonconvenience argument, I think they would make it just fine. It didn't really get heard, but it's not really important to this case at all. And let me clarify something that the judge is saying. The judge is not saying that because Dick had an attorney show up, that the forum is convenient. The judge is saying that because Asterios and Weber-Shandwick are in a convenient forum, he doesn't necessarily buy the argument that the forum is inconvenient outright. Okay, so there's a big difference there. Because lots of people are allowed to send an attorney to court or even appear on their own behalf and make the argument that the court doesn't have jurisdiction and that it's an inconvenient forum for them. And just merely showing up to court is not self-defeating for that argument, because it can still be inconvenient. Look, if this thing goes to trial or went to trial, we're talking about people being in the forum for a much longer period than just one hearing. So even if they're able to make this one motion hearing, they might not be able to make the next hearing, a full trial, all of that stuff. So the court is being clear that the convenient non-convenience argument is hinging on Asterios and Weber-Shandwick being defendants in the forum. But again, I think that if they had a full-out legal argument about that once they were able to separate the defendants and the actual claims, because remember, they're all tangled together. But if they separated out the defendants and claims, like what is happening with all of these dismissals, that non-convenience argument would start to make a lot more sense. So, So then he asked to hear the New York defendants first. Then we hear Greenberger make his case. And he does a good job. Greenberger does a very good job. So, the next thing that Landau does well is the Landau catches Greenberger off guard. The Landau. Yes, the Landau catches Greenberger off guard. Here we have the court asking Greenberger, what in particular is your client accused of doing? And Greenberger answers in the way you never want to answer. Great question, Your Honor. I don't know. I don't know. Because, guys, Landau's argument is so convoluted that it's hard to even identify what it is. It's hard to identify anything that's attributed to Asterios Kokkinos. And I'm obviously trolling Landau by saying he did a good job here. Okay? If that's not clear, if the comedy isn't coming through, I apologize. But, yeah, it's it's always good to have your opponents guessing, but in this context, it's less so. No, he did not bite him. Not well. There are actual things that Landau does okay here, and we'll get to those. But, let's see. The next one I have. So, Magswolia Lifting says, finally graduated law school Saturday, and this is perfect background entertainment for bar prep. Landau's incompetence was incredibly his salvation. Yeah, it sure was. Hey, and Magswolia, congrats, buddy, on graduating law school. Good luck with the bar. If you want any tips on taking the bar, let me know. Because it's garbage. What? I'm getting knocks. I don't know what that means. Hold on. Oh, I'm apparently very loud. Let me get a little closer to my microphone, and I will talk more quietly. I apologize. It's really late here, and of course I am in a hotel, so I have to kind of watch my volume. So we'll turn this into an ASMR stream. Hopefully that'll be acceptable for you guys. We'll get real intimate with this microphone. Buying Feet Pick says, have you seen the lawsuit pertaining to her genitals? Apparently they're filled with herpes. Hee hee. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Dr. Richard R. Ape, it's not my house, and it's not my rules. I am at the Lego Resort in Florida, and I didn't pay for this hotel room, so I'm going to abide by the rules of the person who told me to quiet it down just a little bit. So let's get back to the document. The court asks, how do you claim that Mr. Kokkinos has violated the civil rights law with regard to the use of your client's either picture or identity? So what he's talking about here is Landau brings up all of the allegations against Mr. Kokkinos, and he finishes by quoting injunctive relief under civil rights law section 5051. It's 50 and 51. They're two different sections. But the court reporter's going fast, so excuse that. So Landau says, sure, yes. The defendants have used plaintiff's name, portrait, picture, or voice. And by defendants in this context, Mr. Kokkinos and Mr. Herrera have specifically used our clients, Mr. Azunian as well as Miss Blum's name, portrait, picture, or voice for purposes of advertising or trade without our client's written permission. Now, the reason I brought this up is because he makes the appropriate legal argument for a violation of Civil Rights Law 50 and 51. This is what he says is a textbook breach of the civil rights of his clients. Now, what's important to note is, of course, he's absolutely incorrect in what he says, and he's stretching the bounds of credulity with this. And let's just go through what the court answers. They're not using your client's name as saying, look, your client is endorsing our product. And if you guys have been following my videos on this case, I brought this up very, very early on, that sections 50 and 51 of the Civil Rights Law in New York are rights of publicity, not rights to privacy. It's called a right to privacy, but it's actually a right of publicity. And this is the right of a person to not be represented as endorsing a product against their consent. So, if Dick and Asterios were suggesting that Maddox approved of their shows, or their podcasts, or their books, or was endorsing them in some way, like they wrote a fake foreword and attributed it to Maddox or something like that, then possibly they would be violating his right of publicity under Civil Rights Code 50 and 51, and that's what Landau is saying that they're doing. But the judge is like, no, they're not. They're making fun of your client, and he lays that out very clearly. So, while Landau does make a good argument for violations of sections 50 and 51, it's a lie. It's based on a falsehood. So he has the judge on the hook a little bit here, but the judge isn't biting. So good try, Landau, laying out the legal standard, but a failure in actually bringing it home. Gatsgat says, he, by the way, welcome home, Haley. Welcome home, Haley. Thanks, Gatsgats. All right. So next, the next thing that Landau has done well from the get-go, and this, guys, most of this stuff is going back to the original filing, because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the complaints. We're talking about the addendums to the complaints. This oral argument, let me sidetrack for a second. TV shows make it seem like oral arguments are where everything hinges in a court case, that the oral arguments matter the most. In jury settings, that can be true. When you're laying out your oral arguments to the jury, when you're examining and cross-examining witnesses, that matters because the jury is the voting entity. When you're on issues that are a matter of law, like motion hearings, for example, and they're just before a judge, oral argument is an ancillary part. You rarely win based on your oral argument. You often can lose based on your oral argument. But the main rulings that happen on these matters of law issues happen on the paperwork that's filed. That's where the good arguments are made. That's where the legal arguments are made, because the court doesn't have time. Landau brings this up later. He cites 7 different cases on one of the causes of action. I think defamation. He cites 7 different authority cases. And of course, he would have arguments about each of those 7 cases that he wrote down in his motion. And then the contraparty would have, counter arguments for each of those cases that are referenced. And then they would have their own citations to something different. The court doesn't have time to hear 10 cases per issue synthesized and laid out in front of it and have 2 dummies argue about it. So those arguments are made in the documents. They're not made by oral argument. Usually an oral argument is not winning you anything. So I want to make that clear, because if you're not a lawyer, you may not understand that, because your exposure to legal argument is going to be what's represented on TV, and you see a lawyer making an argument on TV, and as if that matters. In a lot of cases, when you're just talking in front of a judge, they might have a couple clarifying questions, but they've probably made up their minds before they enter the courtroom. Jesse Hallam says, how long until Racket says Lolsuit before a judge? Oh, it's coming. It's coming. So let's get back to it. Thanks for digressing with me on that. But next, Judge Ramos says, and this is the next thing Landau has done well from the get-go, and this is where I kind of left off. From the beginning, Landau has made the argument in the dumbest way I can imagine. He has made the argument that Maddox is a public figure. Okay. So I've talked about this before, but in case you don't know, being a public figure carries with it certain problems for various torts, namely defamation claims. If you're a public figure, you have a higher standard of proof to show defamation against you. You have to reach the bar of what's called actual malice, which means that the other party has to be knowingly issuing a statement of fact that is false. They have to know that it's false. They have to know that they're issuing a statement of fact. If you're a public figure and people are making fun of you, it's harder to argue that they're making a statement of fact because you're a target. And Ramos says that specifically. He's a public figure. He's like a celebrity. He's a target. So I'm going to say that Landau has done a very good job establishing that Maddox is a celebrity. Much to the surprise of anyone familiar with Maddox, Maddox is apparently some sort of public figure or celebrity, despite the fact that he has declining numbers, that people don't know who he is, that people don't care who he is, that he has lost his relevance on the internet. If I turn down the gain a bit, it'll sound a bit better. I can do that. All right. Let me know if that's a little better. So, here's the thing. I have argued, I believe from the beginning, maybe not, I've at least put it out there, that I don't think Maddox actually qualifies as a public figure under the law. But if both parties agree that a party is a public figure, then the court is going to allow that. So, in this case, Landau has done very well making the argument that Maddox is a public figure, and of course, all of the defendants are happy to support that argument. I still think it's a bad, or not a bad argument. I think you could argue that Maddox is no longer a public figure, and that he is subject to the reduced or the increased protections that a private individual would have. Look, just because you're not private doesn't make you public. And I certainly don't think that Jessica Irene Blum is a public figure, although that seems to be kind of out there now. So, this might be contrary to what all of you think, mainly because obviously it is better for the case if Maddox is a public figure. But again, I'm trying to be fair here. I don't think he is. Now, Landau has done such a good job arguing that he's a public figure that everyone accepts it. So, here we go, the court. He's a public figure. You allege that your fellow is basically a celebrity. Fine. Then he asks, celebrities can't criticize one another? Oops. You've made an error in judgment. And I've noticed this with Landau in some of the other filings I've read. He seems to have a narrative problem in his complaints. Specifically, if you watch the video about his most recent case against Viacom, the narrative that he writes for his plaintiff is ridiculous. And there's a much better narrative story that's much more sympathetic and makes much more sense and preps for a better legal argument. Does being off the grid, etc., grant further protection for privacy as you're making efforts to be private? Maybe. It depends on the specific cause of action. Do you think Maddox's ego would ever let him admit under oath that he's not a public figure? Not at all. I don't think he could stand not being a public figure because he's so obsessed with his public persona that it's an integral part of his identity. It seems like it. Anyway, what am I, a psychiatrist? All right. So the next thing that Landau did well, and I'm going to say this just straight out facetiously. Can I legally joke about assassinating someone? Sometimes. Sometimes. I'm saying this as facetiously as possible in this case. Landau, if you read, what's your first impression when you read that lawsuit? Who is Landau hoping to get as a judge? Clearly, Landau is counting on the most liberal, the most social justice-minded judge he can imagine, because he's got a beautiful African-American woman for a defendant. He's got a bald cuckold for a defendant. And the racism that has happened to them, the hate speech that has happened to them, the bullying, guys. The thing he did well here was he severely miscalculated on the possibility of getting Judge Ramos. Heather C., never done a super chat before. Hope this works. It worked perfectly. Thank you. And you're welcome to do as many of those as you want. I appreciate it. So he completely underestimated the possibility of getting Judge Ramos, who, I mean, I have no idea anything about Judge Ramos, but he looks like a Trump supporter. Maxwell, when can I legally joke about assassinating someone? As when it's a joke. Like when it's clearly a joke and that no reasonable person would think you're being serious. And also when you're not talking about someone like the president. Okay? Does being incompetent count as Landau's superpower? Yeah. So Ramos, let's read this statement here because this floored me a little bit. Ramos says, I think, for example, I'm thinking of the way that Saturday Night Live makes fun of President Trump. In a way, they're using his image and likeness and name to make money because they're selling that criticism to the fans of Saturday Night Live. At this point, warning bells should be going off in Landau's head because he has grossly miscalculated what is occurring. Landau says, Your Honor, what they're doing is they're misappropriating personal, private information. Now, this is actually a good recovery, and we're going to talk about this in just a second. So he goes on, he says, they're spreading false and slanderous accusations about him. Now, look what happens. Ramos is about to say something. He says, let's, and then he stops. That's the double N dash there. You say personal and private information. Ramos is intrigued, right? Landau has kicked him off of the Trump Saturday Night Live kick for a second, and he's got him onto this thing. It's like, whoa, you're saying personal and private information. Of course, Landau is lying about that. Because at least as far as the stuff that he submitted to the court, nothing personal or private. He can't produce a single statement where personal or private information has been leaked. Like he says that they've leaked their address. He said that in court today, or on this day, and I have not seen that anywhere. The double N dash is a pause in speech. Or a break, an interruption, if it's at the end of a line, right? So, let's see. And I do want to get out that Landau did get the court to say he, although not in the context of actually saying he. Cat says, so were you joking when you sent us super secret Patreon people the target to do the you-know-what against? Wink, wink. He. No. I mean, yes. Always joking. Definitely do the thing. So Landau says they have disclosed. And here's what the court's saying here. I focused in on this just to make sure people are clear. He, Asterios, he, not they. Not they. He, you dummy. He, you moron. You're doing one case at a time. One person at a time. You can't lump the accusations together unless you're alleging conspiracy, which you're not. They didn't do this. He, each individual, has to have done it. He. Now, what Landau doesn't do well is he does not keep up with the fact that the judge doesn't want to hear this argument. He's still on Civil Rights Law 50 and 51. He doesn't care about defamation. He doesn't care about disclosure of private information. None of that is pertinent to 50 and 51. So he's not very good at staying focused. Clay's roommate says, I love how you can actually bring the atmosphere of this circus for us. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome, buddy. Thanks for watching, of course. So, let's see. What do I have left? Oh, yeah. Back to... So this is where it comes back to full circle. I'll read this exchange a little bit. Because the judge... Guys, this judge is like 1,000 years old. And we'll talk about that in a little bit in some more detail. But this is an old guy. And old guys, when they get an idea in their head... They don't let it go right away, right? You might be able to distract them for a while, but if they're a sharp old guy, they're going to come back to the point they wanted to make. And judges do this all the time. Like, eventually, they asked a question and they want an answer. Or they were on a chain of thought and they want to finish it. Because they're not going to listen to you until they finish, so let them finish. But here we go. So the court says, Landau says, the law does support our position because of the type of campaigns that they use. If it was simply all good-natured fun, that's fine. And then Judge Ramos responds, it doesn't have to be all good-natured. Believe me, what is said on Saturday Night Live about President Trump is not. Landau, again, has to be crapping his pants here. Right, he says. But they're intentionally making things up. They're intentionally going after his sponsors. And the court says, it sounds like fake news. Come on. Traffic hazard. I'm glad you find it funny. It's a little weird, but again, I don't want to, I am on vacation. I've got kids asleep in the next room. So we're trying to, but I still want to do the stream, obviously, and hang out with you guys. But I don't want to keep anybody awake. I also don't want to deal with angry kids or angry parents tomorrow. So, again, Landau severely miscalculated what kind of judge he would get. Stephen Severin, the recent road rage live stream when Drunken Peasants co-creator read what was blacklisted from Maddox was a guest. They did air personal info only on live stream, but was edited in post. They being Drunken Peasants, though, right? I mean, they aired it, sure. But did they disclose that information, or did Drunken Peasants do it? Because Drunken Peasants doing something live on their stream, I mean, that's still not Maddox. It's still not still not Dick, and it's still not Asterios. And the fact that they edited it out in post is, is testament to the fact that they're actually trying to protect his private information. So, and thank you for bringing that up, by the way. But I believe that happened. That, of course, happened long after the complaint and everything else. What I think Landau is referring to, again, because this is what was in his affidavit, is the 8675309. None of the documents have alleged the disclosure of an address, to my knowledge. Now, I was drinking while reading some of them, so I don't remember all of them specifically, but I have a pretty good memory. Oshi says, finally have time to watch a live stream. You sound hoarse. Have you been partying too hard after the verdict? No, I've just been driving for the past couple days. And I'm also trying to keep my volume down. My voice has this habit of carrying really far. Always got me in trouble in school. Good stuff. All right. So, court says it sounds like fake news. Come on. No. Landau does not do well. He does not stay focused on the issue at hand, the Civil Rights Act, Section 50 and 51. You notice he brings up tortious interference, and they're trying to do... He's like, can we possibly focus on the Civil Rights Act? The next thing he's good at is he's good at interrupting the judge and trying to control the flow of conversation. Now, judges don't like this, so while I'm praising Landau for being in control of the courtroom, it's not a positive thing. So Greenberger stands up and says, Your Honor, can I? And the judge gives him the go-ahead. Yes, of course. Landau says, they're using his name. And the court says, hang on. This is my courtroom. And this is where Landau should really be careful. This is where when a judge is mad at you, you know, right? Most of the time, you know this is coming. You know you're getting on their nerves because they're rolling their eyes at you. Hey, Lorraine, thanks for dropping that super chat. Favorite superhero? I mean, not particularly. I like Captain America, not the lame version, the real one. But you know that a judge is, and I like Spawn. I was always a fan of the Spawn comics early on. You know that the judge is mad at you. You know this early on because the judge, like I said, they're rolling their eyes, they're scoffing at you, they're interrupting you, they're correcting you. These are all warning signs. Landau has had plenty of them at this point, and he needs to be really careful here. You don't want the guy deciding your case to be mad at you. And this is something that gets me, there are lawyers out there who focus on doing like a righteous indignation approach to stuff, and they'll stand up and they'll make big statements and they'll be loud and boisterous and everything. But that never, I don't see that working well, ever. Maybe it does for some people. For me, I try and figure out what's making the judge tick, what the judge is identifying with, and I go with that. Just like if I was trying to sell someone something, because ultimately your lawsuit is a sales pitch. Gatsgat says, what are you planning to do now that Rachel post-PhD is on your scent? She's coming for us all. We should have never doxed Jenny 867-5309. And 867-5309, guys, is the personal phone number of Jessica Irene Blum. She has been doxed live on stream. Hashtag fake news. Fake news. I'm going to talk about Rachel Post in a little bit. I have some... I do have the Rachel Post tweets, and I'm going to go through and preview an upcoming video that's coming out. If you guys are... If anyone here is new to the show because of the diversity in comics stuff, first, welcome. And know that the diversity in comics situation, I'll be covering more of it. And I have a fun video coming out that I'm hoping to do in the next couple days if I can do it on my vacation here. But if I have to be too quiet, I'm not gonna do it because I'm gonna be laughing a lot. But I'm going to go through the legal statements of Jamal Igle, who is a comic book professional. And we're going to be assessing his legal acumen. And so if you're from the diversity in comics stuff and you want a good laugh, make sure you check out that video because it will be good. Okay, let's move on. I don't know how many more highlights I have. Let me see if I have any more. That might have been the end of my highlights, and so I'll have to kind of do this live. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Adobe Acrobat is stupid. And if you highlight too many things, it'll actually hang up and shut down. Great job. Great job, Adobe. So what next does Landau do well? So Greenberger here, of course, makes the argument that the Civil Rights Act, Sections 50 and 51, those are only intended to protect New York residents. And he wins that argument very quickly. So Niels Abel says, why does the transcript say the court and not Ramos? Because Ramos is an agent of the court, and he is speaking for the court. He's not speaking as himself. He is an officer of the court who is relaying the court's opinion. So if Ramos were to die tomorrow, and a new judge were to come in, obviously it would be a different person, but they would still be speaking on behalf of the court, not on behalf of themselves. So I think it's just a distinction that they make in that way, that this is an official voice of the court. It also lets a reader keep track of who's in charge. So let's see. Next, so Greenberger basically destroys the entire argument about the civil rights law. And something interesting happens here. Excuse me just a second. Landau says, Your Honor, that's not true, in response to Greenberger. And the court says, you disagree, fine. You're also alleging defamation. So he moves on. And that's okay, because at this point, he doesn't have to issue a ruling today. He doesn't have to dismiss this claim at this time. He can certainly take this under advisement, reread the transcript at his own leisure, and issue a ruling in the next 30 to 45 days. Iron Maiden when? Not tonight. Not tonight. So we move on to the defamatory statements. And here, what's interesting is that Landau, one, doesn't seem to know where the defamatory statements are. And I'll give him a little credit here, though, because this is a judge that asks for working copies, which means that this judge has just books of all of the stuff filed by each of the parties. So each party is going to have a book with all the stuff that they filed. Or maybe each motion sequence has a book. I'm not sure exactly how Ramos does it, but we're talking physical binders with hundreds of pages of documents in them. It's a terrible, terrible system. And again, I think Landau, and we see this a little bit later, grossly miscalculated the type of person who's going to be ruling on this. And I actually will be sympathetic to Landau, and that I think there needs to be a younger cast of judges who specifically deal with internet issues. Judges that are either former programmers or software engineers or something with enough internet savvy to know what's going on. Lucifer Love Monkey, I heard Iron Maiden. Hey, I did Iron Maiden for you guys on the last stream. I can do Iron Maiden, at home, but not here. It's way too loud. I don't know how to do the Iron Maiden voice quietly. And I think to do it quietly would be a disservice to Iron Maiden. So, Landau actually didn't do this well at all, but he says defamatory statements are as follows. What a subhuman piece of garbage Maddox is. Metal Jess allegedly has herpes. Guys, allegedly automatically defeats that statement as defamatory because allegedly isn't factually. Allegedly having herpes is not a statement of fact. I don't think the next generation of judges are going to have a grasp on the real world / be able to separate their feelings from the rulings. Can you become a judge, Rekieta Law? I can become a judge if I either have to get elected as judge or a governor would have to appoint me as judge. Or, of course, a president would have to appoint me if he was appointing me to a federal judgeship, which would be hilarious. Over 9,000 defamatory statements. What? Over 9,000? That's impossible. I'll have to do a Vegeta impression later when I can be louder. Hold on, I gotta get a little more bourbon. I will say that talking for like hours at a time and hydrating with only whiskey is probably not great on the vocal cords, but it is great on the spirit. Screaming Fist, I'm on vacation, buddy. It's what puts hair on your chest, Nick. Yeah, it is. It is, Clay. It is. All right. So, let me reread that again. And the best part, what a subhuman piece of garbage Maddox is. Metal Jess allegedly has herpes. Maddox / Azunian is a cuck. And the court says, slow down, please. Slow down. The court transcriber can't keep up with how fast you're saying Maddox is a cuck. Guys, someone had to type all of this. Oh, it makes me so happy. So guys, here's a good thing that Landau did, except it didn't end up helping him at all. It's 2.5 pages, but they are referenced within the complaints themselves as well. And I mention this, like, don't run your evidence in line in the complaint. One, it's ugly, and the way they did it especially is just, it's impossible to read. So then he says, so a matrix was created to make it easy to locate within the complaint itself. Good job, Landau. Good job making a matrix. Did you ever think you would hear the phrase X is a cuck in a courtroom? I don't know. I do criminal, so probably. At some point. So here's something that Landau did well that I noticed, okay? Landau adequately describes what an actual cuck is. What a cuck is, Your Honor, is the court. Let's say it's a fool, okay? Why can't I call someone a fool? No, it's beyond a fool, Your Honor. Can you imagine? Well, actually. Landau with all the zits and a cape coming in to mansplain to the court. Well, actually, it's beyond a fool, Your Honor. It puts his entire manhood in question. Oh, Landau, there's no question. And says that he tacitly encourages or becomes a voyeur for his girlfriend engaged in sexual activity with other men. That is the meaning of a cuck. Actually, I'm gonna take that back. He doesn't do a good job. He doesn't do a good job describing a cuck. It's not a tacit encouragement or becoming a voyeur. It's achieving sexual gratification from the overt act of watching your significant other engaged in sexual activity. Landau, that was not well done. I lied. Sorry. Gats, Landwy made the Matrix. Landwy versus Neo suit confirmed. And then the judge, again, interrupted by Landau. So Landau is quite good. He's quite good at interrupting Ramos mid-sentence. Unfortunately, of course, this backfires on him in hilarious fashion later on. But look at how tolerant Ramos is. He deals with being interrupted by Landau all of the time. I will interrupt a judge almost never because it's not profitable. Sometimes you have to interrupt. Like, I feel bad sometimes interrupting a prosecutor when they're making an argument. Now, obviously, if they're making an objectionable statement, I will object. That's an interruption. That's a different thing. But I'm talking about when someone's in the middle of talking with a judge, interrupting them, that's a big thing, and you should only be doing this to really make sure that the record is accurate to a factual statement. So if something is inaccurate and you're correcting it right away, that can make some sense. You can sometimes interrupt, but I don't do this very often. I certainly don't interrupt judges. It just doesn't work well. Dame Peso says mundane Matt can't make love to his wife. His fat belly gets in the way. He false flagged Dame Pesos. Matt is legally a homosexual. I know because I'm a lawyer. All right. Is it Dame or Dame? Dame Pesos or Dame Pesos? Yeah, mundane Matt, man. At first, I gave him a hashtag respectable on his response to saying that he was man enough to own up to being wrong. But then this is what weaselly people do, right? They own up to being wrong in a reply to a tweet. And then when it's called out like, hey, you have this giant platform where you could go ahead and make a retraction like a man. You can actually do that. You have the ability to put out a video. And let's be clear on something. It would be profitable for Mundane Matt to do a retraction video, because if he publishes a retraction video, thousands of people are going to watch it. He's going to generate ad revenue just like any of his other videos. So it's silly that he would be so hesitant to do that. And he weaseled out of it. And it's really kind of despicable, if you ask me. Zor18 says, thought Landau was watching rackets for legal strats. Turned out it was for whiskey recommendations. Yeah. I also know where he can find some uninterlocked cars. Cash only, no questions asked. So Mundane Matt's reluctance to make a correction is actually pretty disgusting. And listen, like, he can be just a dumb idiot online commenting on a legal case. People do it all the time. They have no idea, and that's fine. That's fine. You can be a guy who doesn't have expertise commenting on something, because everybody can have an opinion. If he wants to tell his fans his opinion, that's great. But when his opinion is BTFO'd right out of court, he should issue a correction. And I hope you guys notice that when I'm wrong on an issue, I do try and correct it as soon as possible. And this is not me tooting my own horn. This is me only having issues that are hard to be wrong about. I'm not wrong very often so far. The one issue that I can speak to specifically is I got a statute wrong in my initial Poppy video, and I immediately released an updated video as soon as I found out that I was incorrect, to make sure that my opinion was reflecting accurate things. And that's easy for us to do, plus it generates additional revenue, so it's just dumb. And Mundane Matt is a giant fat coward for not doing it. Let's be very clear about that. As Darth Licious says, Mundane Fat is an enormous vagina. I'm going to correct that to vagina, because I don't want anyone to be confused into thinking that he's a cat. You're always wrong on an issue. Sure, Jockshock. Hey, Jockshock, question for you, buddy. Who predicted that the lawsuit would be dismissed? Who actually predicted that the most likely person that the lawsuit would not be dismissed against would be Asterios Kokkinos because of the jurisdictional issue? Who predicted that Dick Masterson, Bozer, and Foundation Digital would be dismissed on jurisdictional grounds? Who predicted that Patreon and Weber Shandwick would be dismissed on ludicrous grounds? I'm batting pretty well, and you're not batting well at all. So, cheers, buddy. This case not being over is great for me, so that's fine. I don't carry a briefcase, Jockshock. Anyway. Cats. Rackets is a witch. Get the feathers. You better throw me in the river and see if I float, buddy. All right. Back to it. Niels Abel says, case not over equals Sadix getting to lose even more. Listen, guys. So, let me talk about one thing that Landau did really well. Really, really well in this. I'm not going to go to the specific spot, but I'll recite it from memory, just because I don't want to scroll to it and then scroll back, and that's awkward. So, when everything gets dismissed without prejudice, and then gets dismissed with prejudice as to Dick Bozer and Foundation Digital on jurisdictional grounds. So, You know, I don't know if the judge is going to release an opinion in this, and if the judge releases an opinion in this, the answer could change. But right now, Maddox is free to refile this in California. Landau says to the judge, we'll refile in California. He just says it. It's great. What he has done there perfectly is he has assumed the sale. He has assumed that Maddox is going to continue to hire him, and to hire him as a pro hack vice attorney in California after this shameful display. And if Maddox does, I'm the happiest man on earth. Man, I hope Landau appears in California pro hack vice or gets licensed in California. I don't care which. That would be the funniest thing that could possibly happen to Maddox. Gosh, that would be funny. Enjoy your future ban for bullying Matt Loser. Who's Matt Loser? You learn how to use commas from Landau? But the thing is, as of right now, without a judge's opinion, since it's just dismissed on jurisdictional grounds, sure, they could refile in California. That would be about the worst thing they could possibly do, because California has stronger anti-slap laws, and an anti-slap law allows, once you win a case that involves protected speech, you to countersue and recover damages for having to defend against the lawsuit. And it goes beyond attorney's fees. It's damages for them trying to suppress your First Amendment rights. New York has an anti-slap statute. It's not as strong as California. If Maddox were to sue Dick in California, he would probably get just murdered on anti-slap. Guns Beer Freedom 87 says, Jock Shock is right, though. The case isn't over. Weber Shandwick still has the sanctions motion hearing against Maddox and Landau. That's going to be really fun. Yes, and don't forget that Greenberger also has a sanctions motion hearing against Maddox and Landau. Once they either refile, or if they fail to refile in New York, Greenberger can raise the issue that there's still an outstanding sanctions motion to deal with. So, oh goodness, Jock Shock is cute. Good job, buddy. So, let's get back to that. Landau assumes the sale to Maddox. Guys, if you haven't caught this, I mentioned it in a previous stream, I believe, but Landau's discounted rate is $575 an hour. That means for every hour he has sunk into this, Maddox is paying at least $575. Every single document that he has to read, every single document he has to draft, it's $575 an hour. Drafting a 50-page complaint, I mean, you're talking several hours. Maddox sunk thousands of dollars into this, and I don't know this, but I can pretty much suggest with confidence that he did not take this entirely on a contingency, because this is an extremely weak case, and he's not that dumb. So anyway, let's move on. Landau does not argue well that public figures can have protection from defamation. He does not do that well at all. Let's see. What else does he do here? The dumb thing is that Landau then loses the argument on Metal Jess being a public figure. Metal Jess almost certainly is not a public figure. First of all, I can't think of anyone who wants to see Metal Jess anywhere. I mean, presumably there's someone, but like, she's just a trade show model. I know a couple trade show models. They, like, who I know them personally. They happen to be or have been trade show models. That doesn't make them famous or public in any sort of way. So the fact that Greenberger was able to successfully argue that Metal Jess is potentially a public figure is fantastic. Let's see. What else do we have here? Clay's roommate said, how did Landau get where he is as far as a lawyer? Is this common? Yeah, guys, lawyers aren't special people. And if you think, let me drop some some personal story here. But when I got accepted to law school, I was extremely excited. Never thought, I had no plans to be a lawyer when I was younger. Didn't think I would get accepted to a law school ever because, I was my undergrad major was literature and creative writing, and I was gonna write a novel and screenplays and all that fun stuff until I got out of college and had a family to deal with. You can't just write the great American novel so easily when you have to put food on a table for other people. I could eat ramen all day and that'd be fine, but kids don't survive well on that. So I put that aside and did some other jobs in the financial industry before becoming a lawyer. But because of my undergraduate education, I never expected to get accepted to law school. So I was very elated when I did. And when I got in and I got to school and I started talking to people, I was no longer excited to be accepted to law school because, there are a lot of sharp people there, as there would be in any graduate program. But there's a lot of dummies too, and it takes away that whole luster of this group of people with some sort of exceeding intelligence. They're not. Lawyers are just people. So people like Landau, sure. If you have a good marketing strategy that ignores the fact that you lose constantly and cost your clients thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars on a frequent basis, you can still charge hundreds of dollars in a place like New York because lawyers can just charge quite a bit of money in major metro areas. Neil Zabel, lit major, explains the hatred of bad apostrophes. Yeah, buddy. How did I balance graduate education with supporting a family? With a lot of support from my family. And that's, there are a couple ways to do school. And if you're considering law school and you're young and single, great. If you're older, make sure you got a support network, man, because it's tough. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of stress. And you turn into an insufferable jerk. like my wife and I can no longer watch TV that involves lawyers because it makes, because I'll make comments that make her want to punch me in the face. How long until they can't refile on Asterios? I don't actually know the answer to that. And it's not in the order here, so it's not clear. I would guess that they have a time limit of 30 days. But I don't know. Yes, idiots can become lawyers. So thank you very much, I Marcus Cicero, for asking how long until they can't refile on Asterios. Let me... I'm going to do what I shouldn't ever do, and I'm going to see if I can find that... Bookham Dano. So Landau charges that much hoping that people assume it's worth it. Yeah, I would say so. And that's an effective marketing strategy. Let me see if I can find out the New York Consolidated Practice Laws and Rules. Let's see if we can... limitations of time. I'm going to see if I can find... Let's see... a I'm seeing if I can find here the pleadings. I might have to answer this at a different time because I just don't know. I'm hoping to have an interview with one of the attorneys very, very soon that will be able to answer this question. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. Refile on New York is the same as transferring a refile to California. They can raise the issue in California. Their California time is disconnected from this New York case. Okay, so they can file in California anytime within the California statute of limitations. So effectively, they can go back a couple years to statements that were made, but the longer they wait, statements will fall off. The Dick Show has now been going for almost 2 full years, so they're going to get to a point where anything they, as time keeps passing, statements from the early episodes that may be defamatory or whatever might fall off. I believe the statute in California is 2 years on defamation, but I could be wrong on that. So, yeah, I'm not going to sit and try and pour through the laws on New York refiling. It's the civil procedure in New York is very different than Minnesota, and so it would take me a little bit of time to find it, and I'm not going to spend that time on the stream. But if my interview coming up works out, and it is not with Greenberger, so don't get too excited for Greenberger. He will not be able to have an interview with me until Asterios is completely cleared from the case. Because, again, the last thing I want is for anyone to have any compromising things that would cause any sort of ethical issues or to cause any sort of issues with ongoing representation. So as soon as Asterios is cleared from the case, I'll be reaching out to Greenberger to hopefully secure an interview with him. But we have potential other interviews coming up, and I will announce those. So make sure and follow along. Adam D says, everyone should study marketing tactics influenced by Cialdini, etc., if only to recognize deceptions no matter what you do. And that, I'm not familiar with the actual, scholarly aspect of marketing or anything like that, but I know that being in New York and having a specific price point, people assume automatically that you're worth it. Being an attorney with a specific price, it depends whatever market you're in, whatever specific price point you choose, people are going to assume that you're worth that because otherwise, why else would you charge it? So to some respect, that's going to have it. In a place like New York that is so saturated with law firms and different attorneys, your reputation isn't going to precede you outside of being a known, either a superstar or a known, degenerate. And at some point, maybe Landau will reach one of those statuses. But at the meanwhile, I assume, just no one. How are you going to hear of someone in a city that big unless you know personally? Makes sense to charge more. Yeah, for the most part. Says Maddox officially a cuck by law. No, Greenberger did not have a chance to prove that in court because of this dismissal, but the case is still ongoing, so we'll see how that works. All right. So, as for refiling, I think he has 30 days to amend his complaint. I think. And hopefully we'll have an interview before that will confirm or deny that. If that complaint is not amended, then Greenberger will have to remind the court that there's a sanctions motion that's outstanding as far as him. But I will be following, of course, the sanctions motions for Weber Shandwick and Greenberger as they arise. So would AUSAs be the best of the best? What's the steamas with them? I don't know what you mean by that. Assistant U.S. attorneys, is that what you mean? And no, prosecutors are almost never the best of the best. Okay. So I'm not going to talk anymore about what Landau did well, because realistically, guys, he didn't do much well. The one thing that he did is somehow, through his own incompetence, pretty much, he managed to preserve this case from being dismissed with prejudice as to Asterios Kokkinos. That is the only party that he can refile against in New York. Weber Shandwick is dismissed. Well, we don't know what happened with Patreon and Coke, but I'm going to assume that Patreon and Coke were dismissed with prejudice. Gatsgat says he has 2,628,000 and 2 seconds. Trust me, I am the law. I think Maddox will replead against Asterios, because I think Landau's going to do it, whether Maddox wants him to or not. Or if Maddox is hesitant, I think Landau's going to talk him into it. If he does not replead within the time limit, Asterios will be off the hook. Yes. That you can't just keep this thing out there forever. Say it like Stallone.
He has 2,628,000 2 seconds. Trust me, I am the law. Oh, I am the law!
Sorry. Anyway, I don't know if Landau's working pro bono. I really don't think he is. But either way, can Team Maddox file literally the same sets of documents in California? No, he can't, because they allege violations of New York law, so they'll have to be amended. Will they guarantee him a victory due to how good they are? According to Shock Jock, yes. Yes. Can Dick be part of the sanctions motions, file sanctions against Maddox? No. Dick's lawyers did not raise the sanctions motions against Maddox, primarily because the Heather S. disclosure is really what seals the deal on those sanctions motions, and the Heather S. disclosure doesn't specifically hurt Dick. It specifically hurts Asterios and Weber Shandwick. What I want to talk about next is what I did well. And what I did well was specifically call out this section. And if you're following along at home, this is on page 28. Okay, so let's get into this real quick. So this is a word from the court. All right. What else are you alleging against Mr. Kokkinos? Defamation has got to be repled. That's because he failed so hard at the pleading standard for defamation with malice against a public figure. And again, not attributing specific comments to Kokkinos. The Civil Rights Act is out. So again, because he failed to understand what the Civil Rights Act actually protects, which is a right of publicity, not a right of privacy. It's called a right of privacy in the heading, but if you just do any research into it, and guys, I'm not a New York attorney, it took me 5 seconds to figure out that the courts regard it as a right of publicity, not of privacy, because it protects people from having their name used in conjunction with sponsorship, not their name used in conjunction with being made fun of. Rob Goldie, yeah, he did tell the court how much he had incurred for a submission when trying to screw Asterios over for the service. So I don't know how New York works, but he could, in theory, he could have that outstanding fee and have billed it to Maddox, but with an understanding that Maddox wouldn't pay it unless they won that motion. Did you skip the part where the court threatened to hose down Landau yet? No. I haven't skipped it. Can I send you a copy of an inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations signed by me? Do you have an eye on any Steam games? Adam Smith, if you want to send me that, you absolutely can, and I will laugh hysterically. An eye on any Steam games. Yeah, I kind of want to play Pillars of Eternity 2. I haven't played Pillars of Eternity 1, though, so that's a little weird. Both of those games look fantastic. Other than that, Space Hulk Deathwing Enhanced Edition came out. I already own it. but I won't be able to play it until I get back. So look for that on Twitch sometime coming up. Yeah, the transcript is public, Ben. It's currently up on lawsuit.com. All right. So they've thrown out defamation. It has to be repled. Civil Rights Act is out because Landau misunderstood the law. What else is there? So he's got misappropriation and unfair competition. The court says misappropriation of what? So then Landau. Mr. Kokonos engages in purposeful, deceptive, and monopolistic business practices. Because, again, guys, Mr. Kokonos has a monopoly on all of this. Monopolistic business practices, including, the court says, don't give me conclusory statements. And I hammered on this when I read the documents initially, because this is such Gypsy, you can find this all on lawsuit.com, lolsuit.com, and that will direct you straight to it. And guys, you can currently share links in the chat, so you don't have to like type out dot. You can actually type in lolsuit.com and link it in the chat. So as long as people don't abuse that, I will leave the links up. But if I get a bunch of invitations to the Mars Argo Discord, they will come down. I don't care that people invite people to the Mars Argo Discord, but it's a little ridiculous when they do it on every Poppy video. Yeah, you did it right. You did it right, Dr. Richard R. Ape. Ooh. All right. Conclusory statements. Let's be clear on what this is. In a complaint, you cannot just plead legal conclusions. You cannot say, he defamed me. You have to say, he made this statement. This statement is materially false. He knew this statement to be false. This statement caused me harm. Under the three-part test for, and the court is the appropriate place to redress damages. Under the four-part test for defamation, the statement is defamatory. You cannot just say someone defamed you. You cannot just say that he engages in purposeful, deceptive business practices, because that's a legal conclusion. That is not a set of facts. I don't know at all. You still can't post patreon.com/Asterios? You should be able to. Again, you learn this. This is a line of cases in civil procedure. It's a first-year law school question. You learn about making conclusory statements in your pleading. You just can't do it. The court ignores them, and it doesn't help you. You have to allege specific factual allegations. The Iqbal Twombly line of cases, if you want to be nerdy, or if you want to impress people at a cocktail party with your civil procedure savvy. Next, he targets harassment campaigns against our client sponsors. Conclusory statement. What did Mr. Kokonos do or say with regard to the sponsors? He has linked our client's website to his website so that he can. Where is this alleged in the complaint so I can understand what you're talking about? All you're giving me is conclusions. Let's see, paragraph 40. Then defendants also, you lump everybody together. You can't do that. Likewise, defendants also created fake advertising campaigns against plaintiff. That's a conclusory statement. And paid for advertisements to circumvent from being blocked on a plaintiff's sites. Conclusory statement. The whole thing is conclusory. All of these are conclusions. None of them are factual allegations that lead to a conclusion. I'm only doing this because I'm tooting my own horn on calling this out. This is so poorly written, and I can't stress that enough. This is so poorly written that a judge could not possibly find anything in here to even rule on. But the one thing that Landau did best is being so incompetent that the judge similarly couldn't dismiss it as a matter of law. He could not dismiss it with prejudice as far as the people he had jurisdiction over. So that's where we're at. Let's get to the one part that everyone wants to talk about real quick. Actually, on the way there, I think we'll find something else. Please don't skip the very real advanced algorithm. I'm getting there. Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is my favorite part. Like, this is great. I didn't have to scroll down at all. Landau, we provide examples. The court. Then you attach. My eyesight is not that bad, but it would take not a magnifying glass, a microscope to read this complaint. Yeah, what were you doing, you idiot? What is stated in paragraph 40 that relates to Mr. Kokonos? I don't even see his name there. You know, guys, I'm going to check something real quick. Bear with me. Because I just realized something. I can check what paragraph 40 actually is, and if it's the thing I think it is, it's just great. Give me just a moment. I'm pulling it up. You won't see this, only I will. I'm not on my home computer, otherwise I'd pull it up for you, but I can only pull it up in here on in the background. I don't want to go through the whole thing of downloading it so it can pop up. I'll just read it to you. Paragraph 40 is the fake advertisement campaign that is the Reddit forum. So stupid. Okay. I think they describe it in just a second here. So bear with me. Have you ever seen a judge? Have you ever had a judge that's sassy? Guys coming in like it's a legal rap battle. Yeah, absolutely. Judges are people. I can't state this enough. And like, if you don't understand that a judge is a person, then in a courtroom you can't figure out how to work the judge. And you've got to be selling the judge. Dick talks about everything being marketing. Everything is marketing. Everybody is selling something, no matter what you're doing. If you're out in front of a judge, you're selling some idea to the judge, and you better figure out what makes a judge tick. You've got to figure it out. So this comes from his Reddit page, Your Honor, says Landau. And this is great. The court. What's a Reddit page? You're trying to win a lawsuit based on internet defamation and two podcasters, two e-celebrities, and you've got a judge who's like 1,000 years old. What is a Reddit page? I don't even know. I've never even heard of Reddit. Don't care. It's effectively a forum for people to come and to... The judge says, since I don't have a microscope here, will you please tell me what this is supposed to say? Sure, it indicates no, not indicates what it says. Read it to me. So then he reads it. And I know Dick does some Facebook advertising targeting people who like the Maddox page. Right there, that's an admission. No, Landau, it's not. First of all, Asterios cannot make an admission on behalf of a different party. So saying that it's admission is not just wrong, it's also stupid. Because Asterios can't make an admission for Dick. It doesn't work that way. But if he isn't, which undermines the fact that it was an admission in the first place, you idiot, he should also be targeting people who like Biggest Problem in the Universe page. There's still people who listen to the show that don't know about this one. And the judge is like, these are competitors on the internet who don't like each other, and this is actionable? Like, obviously not. Every single time our client gets any type of sponsor, any type of guest, they are harassed mercilessly, and fraud... Wait, he has to correct himself because you don't want to lie to the court. False statements continue to be asserted. A false statement is not a fraudulent statement. Fraudulent statements are made with the intent for them to be fraudulent and mislead. False statements don't necessarily have that requisite intent. If it's a false statement, if it's not defamatory, what is it? It's malice. That's not a thing. It's not a thing, Kevin. That's not a tort. What's the tort you're alleging? Apparently this is all tort. I don't know why this case is in the commercial. This is funny because Ramos can't even figure out why he's hearing this. This is a guy who deals with transactions between corporations. as a commercial judge, right? He's talking about, trade disputes, about unfair business practices, about someone missing a shipment under a contract, about someone trying to return a shipment under a contract, multiple millions of dollars worth of goods or services being returned. Not services, goods or products being returned. This guy is not in the mood to hear petty banter between two e-celebs. It's so funny. Adam D says, Greenberger from the start repeatedly asked plaintiffs not be given leave to amend, if only by saying arguments were not the type that may be corrected. Should Greenberger have pushed back on dismissal without prejudice? No, he should not. Again, like you have to weigh, and I think, I don't know anything about any of these people, right? What I can gather is that Kevin has no idea what's going on in any particular room. He doesn't have a read on people that are judges, at least, or other attorneys. Greenberger knows this judge is ticked off. He has not made him mad. Entirely angry at Landau. Don't go against a judge. Don't do it. Don't do it. Ride with it. Say, okay, we'll see what happens when they bring back their stupid case. He also knows that repleading is going to be ridiculous. So Landau brings it back. So as far as misappropriation, unfair competition, that's why it's in commercial court. Unfair competition and misappropriation. Even though these are poorly alleged facts, he alleged business transaction torts and over $500,000. So in New York, there you go. You're in commercial court. They target, and this goes into the tortious interference as well, they target every one of his sponsors. So he's lost hundreds of thousands of dollars as a result of that. No, he hasn't. Come on. No one thinks Maddox makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Ever. How do they target every... Excuse me. This is Mr. Kokonos. He is targeting your client's sponsors. I thought that was Mr. Herrera. Both of them do, Your Honor. How did Mr. Kokonos do it? In the Reddit page. And this is a great line by Landau. Reddit page, through links to his website, by linking our client's website. So, Your Honor, these are very sophisticated individuals when it comes to technologies. And this is great. This is my favorite line in the whole thing. Both our clients, as well as the defendants. So, he has to get in there that Maddox is very sophisticated when it comes to technology, despite the long-standing demonstration that Maddox is about as sophisticated as I am when it comes to technology, which is shameful, Maddox. Shameful. Court, I understand that. I'm trying to play catch-up. I'm from the carbon paper generation. Guys, at this point, if you're Landau, the judge has just given you the most important clue that you've been missing the entire time. This guy... He doesn't know what a Twitter is. He doesn't know what a Reddit is. He doesn't know what Facebook is beyond the fact that his grandkids' pictures show up on there sometimes. And they set it up. This guy probably plays Free Cell and Solitaire on computers. Outside of that, his Windows 95 machine barely boots up from all the adware that's on there, right? Like, this is who you're dealing with. And you have to remember who these judges are. Have to know what you're dealing with. Landau needs to change tack immediately, and I don't think he's capable of doing this. I don't think he's adept on his feet. I don't think he's that fast of a thinker. Frankly, I don't think he's smart enough, even if he were a fast thinker, to get here. You have to explain everything to this. Like this guy, like Maddox is like a 1920s railroad startup, and Dick Masterson is Vanderbilt, and you're trying to undo, like you're trying to beat the bad robber baron. That's what you're trying to do. You have to set this up in the year that this guy was born, which is pre-World War II. Explain it in language he grew up with, or you fail. You fail. Pony Cordero says, I've lost more money tipping you on live streams than Maddox lost to sponsors vanishing of their own volition. Yeah, I think so. And I really appreciate that, by the way. Thank you very much. Gatscat says, take it back. Windows 95 for life. Hashtag true news. If a judge who doesn't understand modern tech grants a dismissal without prejudice based on bad understanding of said tech, what would a plaintiff's reproach be? Dismissal without prejudice is not, I mean, that's no problem. If it was a dismissal with prejudice, they could appeal it. Absolutely. But a dismissal without prejudice, he should replead. He should replead, and then he can, maybe he gets an appealable dismissal later. Do you want to save the Rio Nort line or not? No, let it die. Let it die. Let it die. But again, like, the judge has given Landau clues to who he is, and Landau's not listening. You have to talk to the judge in language that they'll understand without being condescending. Don't be condescending, right? This man is by law more important than you, so don't be condescending. But you got to hold their hand and walk them through this. Again, you talk the language of business. Now, the funny thing is, this is what gets me, is, guys, if you don't know this, Landau has either finished his MBA or is finishing his MBA. Landau's focus is business. He should be able to do this in a heartbeat. This should not be a problem for him. He should have easily the requisite knowledge to lay out a business argument that this judge can understand that doesn't involve Reddit or Twitter or anything else. He can just say, Judge, these are message boards. Think of them as press releases. Let's talk about the real issues here. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This guy is trying to take money away. He's trying to take ad revenue away, but he can't do it. Like, here's the judge trying. I'm from the carbon paper generation, okay? Now, I'm Harry's. I've got a store in Manhattan, right? And I'm a sponsor of your client. Like, Harry's store in Manhattan matters at all. Harry's primary business is shipping razor blades all over the earth. But look at this guy. He's roots it in Manhattan. It's important to him to know what is a physical store. So how are you interfering with Harry's physical store? How are you messing with Harry's physical sales? What are you doing? So you got to sell Maddox as a radio host, not as a podcast host, as a radio host. Listen, Maddox is a radio host. He sells ads. Their metrics would say how many people listen to his radio show. Harry's pays him a certain amount of money based on the number of listeners to his radio show. This is an easy argument to make if you're at all prepared. Yeah, my mom's asleep. Let's see. Sorry, James. I notice you. I was just ranting. But anyway, the fact that Landau couldn't identify this is just shameful. All right. And I'm not going to read through it. Again, a dramatic rereading of all of this is coming soon. But the fact that he couldn't identify on this on the fly is just, the guy isn't worth his money. Let's see. Next. And this is important. Like, Greenberger focuses in on this, and Matt's tag team's in on it as well. Landau does not allege that there's actually a breach of contract with Harry's, just that the contract was canceled. And when he's asked, the court has to ask him like 3 times before he eventually says, yeah, there was a breach, which of course there wasn't, as far as we know. Let's see. Actually, this is like the dumbest exchange. I'm going to go through it real quick. I do not see an allegation in the complaint that says Mr. Kokonos precipitated a breach of a contract with Harry's or cancellation. Was there a breach? I'm sorry. Was there a breach? Was there a breach? Did Harry's breach its contract with your client? Can you imagine how frustrating it would be to be Ramos in this moment? Did they breach the contract? That's the question. Did they breach it? In paragraph 29, it indicates an example of how, why can't I get an answer to the question? It's a yes or no. If it's lying under oath, like this, potentially. lying under oath. The plaintiff would have to, or the defendants would have to show that they were lying, and that would come out in discovery. Hopefully it never gets there. Can we get audio of these court sessions? Not to my knowledge. Andrew asked an important question. Birch Stream 2.0 when? When we have another trademark issue, I'll get Birch on. I just actually got to meet Birch in person yesterday. Had a really good time meeting him and his wife. So, what is a photocopier? Come on, Gats, I'm not there. But Birch is a good dude, and hope to do more content with him. Counselor, if you're not going to answer my questions, then why are we bothering with oral arguments? I'll just do it on papers. Yes, they did. There he says the breach. Sure. They did. They breached the contract. You don't allege that, do you? And then Mats comes in and talks about it. Let's get to the fun part. There's no allegation of a breach, so that cause of action is dismissed. By the way, when I dismiss a cause of action, these are not dismissals with prejudice. Okay. You can replead. Thank you. Why bother, Landau? Why bother? Let's see. Let me get to this. Let me get to the fun part, and then I'm going to jump to something else. Let's see. Here we go. Scrolling through. Oh, here we go. This is great. This is the statement. All right. Who am I, Rekieta Law? I'm a lawyer in Minnesota. That's it. Just a dude. This is just a dude. All right. So the judge has not seen this. Now, this is the problem with being a working papers judge. He gets a lot of duplicate papers. Every time someone serves something to someone, they have to provide the working copies to the judge along with that. So he's got, like I said, hundreds of pages of documents, and a lot of them are duplicated. Clay's roommate says, is this man literally asking a question that he answers with another question? Is this a form of filibuster, and what is he trying to achieve here? I don't know what he's doing. I don't think he knows what he's doing. So, yeah, I can't tell you because it's so dumb. So, here we go. Please, I haven't seen this. So he's missed this. He gets tons of documents, tons of copies and multiple copies of documents. He missed this Reddit comment from Mad Cucks. And it's really a shame he did, because I think this is a sanctionable thing in general. Wow. No, I don't have thoughts on that, but that's up to you guys. All right. So the court says, I haven't seen this. Now, this is from, first of all, whose document is this? This is reddit.com, the Dick Show comments. Landau says yes. And Mad Cucks is Trevor Burt, who is the defendant's pseudonym or alias, or how does that tie to the corporate defendant? He's talking about Weber Shandwick. So how does this Mad Cucks statement tie to Weber Shandwick? Because it indicates that there's a little-known story right after. I see that, the court says. It says they said using an advanced algorithm provided by Dick's company. And then the court's reading along with him. They said using an advanced algorithm provided by Dick's company, which is Mr. Herrera. And then the court takes over. And utilizing the data from the place Asterios worked. Landau. And Asterios is Mr. Kokonos. Court says, this is the basis upon which you're going to join these folks as defendants. No, Your Honor, but that is an admission from a defendant. Miss Matt says, Your Honor. And Munoz, whoa. Can you imagine? Whoa. Several admissions, says Landau. Mr. Munoz says, it's not an admission from my client or anyone who works for my clients. Again, Landau's pretending like all these people are the same thing. It doesn't work that way. A person, if you're in court, someone cannot make an admission on your behalf, like, unless they can quote you specifically and provide evidence that that quote is true. They can convince the court that the quote came from you, but other than that, not enough, James. Okay, so Landau says, let me finish. Munoz says, excuse me, I would address this. The court says yes. Mr. Munoz, utilizing data from the place Asterios worked at, they had calculated what fan had the right body type and wit to create a parody of Maddox. This is a joke. What data could a public relations firm have regarding the right body type and wit? I don't even understand what that means. Landau says, Your Honor. Munoz continues. This person is posting under the name Madcucks. Madcucks is alleged in this complaint to be a parody and a joke, and he's going to take this post by someone that he alleges is a parody and a joke that's averred to something nonsensical, some type of data that will tell you about people's body type and wit, and that's his basis. Landau says, Your Honor, you asked the question. You interrupted me first. You asked the question, and then the court stops him. To Landau, you want to be thrown out of here. No. One more time. In fact, I won't throw you out. I'll hold you in contempt. I'm serious. Cuffs on in prison. You behave yourself in this courtroom, young man. You're suing a lot of people with some very questionable claims here, and this gentleman is trying to defend his client. Please proceed. When you ask the question for the basis of this conclusory allegation that our equipment was used, Mr. Landau gets up and says Exhibit 8. It's ridiculous. And now that you indicated that, apparently he's got some other basis, so I'll cede the floor to him. So he actually lets it go. He lets Landau continue his argument. But guys, he tried to use the Reddit quote from Madcucks, which is an obvious joke to anyone ever. As the basis for his claim, and honestly, I think they're going to revisit that when the sanctions come up. Eric Horn, importantly, this is not trial. I just want to point that out. This is an oral argument in front of a judge on a motion hearing, and these are common even when things don't go to trial. So even if you have a motion to dismiss, oftentimes there will be oral argument. They'll give each party just a chance to state something, a chance to make their case on the motion itself. So this is not a trial. There's no jury selection. There are reduced rules of evidence, and you're not cross-examining or examining witnesses. You're only bringing in the complaint and the supporting documents for the complaint. So anyway, guys, that's all I want to do. That's all I want to do on this transcript today, because, as I said, next week sometime we will have a full read-through of the transcript, dramatized with guests, and the guests will be good stuff. So I'm putting that together. Listen to the Dick Show this coming week. Hopefully we will have details hammered out by then. Also, you can, of course, follow me on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, and watch for the announcement. But we will be hammering this thing out. It will be fun. I'm hoping to do it live with a good Q&A session at the end, because if everything goes right, there will be a good group of people for you to ask questions to. Now the Twitter PhD lady. Yes, I have the Twitter PhD lady. So let's jump into this. We're at 1 hour and 48. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I do need to go, to sleep so I can do some Lego stuff tomorrow. So here are the tweets. The tweets are from Leroy Goldstein. And Leroy has posted direct messages that he had with a person named Rachel Post, who allegedly, and I do not... importantly, I'm not challenging the alleged education of Rachel Post, which apparently she takes very much offense to. I'm just saying allegedly because I have not verified it. However, she has said herself that you can go to UC Berkeley and you can find and verify her PhD. So her PhD is apparently from UC Berkeley. Her name is Rachel Post, according to her Twitter, and you can go there. According to Rachel Post, in her own tweets, she is a member of a very rich family, only works reluctantly, and was in school for 10 years because she didn't want a job. And so she also apparently has 2 master's degrees to accompany that PhD. So remember this. This is a person with 2 master's degrees, a PhD, who is also a registered nurse, making these statements. I just point that out to make sure that everyone knows just how valuable various educational titles are. I'm sorry, Adam D. I have to be close with the mic because I can't be loud. So, all right. Let's see what we've got here. I gotta blow this up for me. All right. So here's how it starts. Thoughts on Maddox losing the lawsuit against Dick and other people and companies he is suing. I don't know. I've been in Peru for 2 weeks and only heard from Maddox yesterday. He returned a text and said he would text me back when he had time. Haven't heard back. Assuming Jess took his phone again. Why does Jess take his phone? I haven't had time to research. Before I left, I tried to refer him to a competent lawyer here in California who specializes in internet stuff. I haven't spoken with my friend, the attorney, either, as I've been home less than 48 hours. Then she responds to the, hold on. Then she responds to the phone thing. Clay, you're doing just fine. I know she sometimes controls his social media. Good job, Maddox. Way to be the manliest pirate on earth. Taking phones is what crazy jealous girlfriends do when their man is chatting with a hot redhead, me. So, Rachel Post is a self-described hot redhead. You can look at her profile picture and make your own determinations. I just logged on. I'll research what is in the public domain. Uh-oh. There's some words that don't make any sense right away. Like, in the public domain? If you guys don't know, public domain is a legal term of art that refers to stuff that is outside the bounds of copyright, which means that it has existed for 70 years past the copyright claimant's ability to make a claim, usually their death or the dissolving of a corporation that owned the copyright. So a legal term of art. She's immediately trying to look smart, and it's adorable. If you have links, who knows? He should have taken my lawyer. He is expensive. However, was born to lawyer, as his dad and 2 brothers are all attorneys and they are on the Supreme Court bar. Now, as Grand Admiral C points out later, and you can check that if you want, being on the Supreme Court bar is not a challenging thing. You just have to be practicing law in front of a state bar for 3 years and then have 2 people vouch for you, and then you're on the Supreme Court bar and you pay a fee. You got to pay a fee for everything when you're a lawyer, by the way. Okay. So, this guy may be the greatest lawyer on earth, but him practicing in front of the Supreme Court bar, or him being on the Supreme Court bar, means nothing. It doesn't mean he's ever been on a case. And certainly having a dad and 2 brothers as attorneys, as Landau will prove, having a dad and a brother as an attorney doesn't mean you're any good either. So he says, I don't think he can file another lawsuit, Kenny. Or is double jeopardy just for criminal cases? Yes, double jeopardy is just for criminal cases. But issue and claim preclusion under a doctrine called res judicata is similar to double jeopardy as far as civil cases. And issue and claim preclusion might prevent him from filing another lawsuit in California. It really depends on what the judge's order ends up saying. They tend to be very pricey. Does Maddox even have the funds for another lawsuit? They tend to be very pricey. Do you have any idea why he didn't use your lawyer friend instead of who he went with? He filed in New York, and I told him about my guy probably too late. Or maybe he talked to your guy, and your guy said, you're an idiot. He said his legal strategy was in his legal team's hands. And what capable hands they have been. The most capable hands. I'm taking a leap of faith by trusting what I tell you stays in DM. You didn't say that up front, for one thing. And two, why are you talking to a stranger? Who are these people? My thoughts on born to lawyer. Anyone who's born to lawyer should maybe be drug out in the street and shot. Lawyers are insufferable people. They're really the worst. So here's the greatest. This is so good. And just so you guys know, this is a preview of what the Jamal Eigel video is going to be about. Because this is a lawyer explaining legal concepts. And it's always funny. I told him the best strategy is to file in federal court. What? Against and get depositions going now, as in the Article 3 courts. You have a right to a quick trial. Right to a speedy trial is reserved for criminal court. That's not civil court. He was too blasé and never really grasped the thing properly. Oh, sweetie, I'm not sure you're able to qualify who's grasping anything properly. But filing in federal court, as far as Dick Masterson, is not possible because there's not a diversity of citizenship between Dick and Maddox. They both are in California. So you can't file in federal court, sugar, unless it's a federal question, which you don't have because defamation is state law. So are all of the other claims. They're all under state law. Let's see. What does she say next? Gosh, this is good. Most of that filing is a joke, despite the fact that his case is legit. At least she's correct that most of the filing is a joke, but his case is not legit. It never was. He needed to drop Jess. Nope, that wouldn't have helped him at all. Mr. Kill Everything, good night, buddy. Have fun getting up for work. His financial situation is not discussed. I don't ask people about stuff like that unless they tell me. Now, what's interesting is that she very quickly in later tweets pointed out that she has more money than everybody. So, just so you know, she has more money than you. I'm unsure why he would file a joke asking for so much. File and ask for $69 or $420 or something. I think he misunderstood there. She was saying it was a joke because it was bad, not because it was a literal joke. I don't know. It was an asinine. Adding Jess to, she has a separate slander case. No. No, she doesn't have a slander case. These guys don't have a case. They should have kept the two matters separate. No, you can't. It's coming from the same transaction. Or the same transaction or harm. The same statements. They're not two separate matters. They probably should have been joined. And if they weren't, Jess might have lost her ability to make this pleading. But again, you're not a lawyer and it shows. Dick insinuated several times that she has herpes or HPV. An insinuation, by the way, is not a defamatory statement. That's an insinuation. All she had to do was tell him to stop. Nope. If he didn't correct himself, get doctor's note for the judge. Bingo. Open and shut, right? Except it isn't. It isn't open and shut because you're an idiot. He needs to learn how to tie a noose after losing so many cases. Yeah, he can join the Girl Scouts, get his merit badge and rope work. I feel bad for him and will leave him alone for a while. He's very ego-driven, as most of us are. Speak for yourself, you conceited idiot. He's a little extra. Oh, I got a bug in my eye. That was gross. This was a sensitive topic that he just started opening up about to me. I wish he had sooner, as I could have given him my guy who is a bulldog and specializes in this stuff. I almost would have liked to see it brought in California to see an attorney for Dick just ream someone on non-jurisdictional grounds. If FSPAMSS asked if this was a mass offense that caused damage to multiple people with no relation and one sued independent of the other, would the other be able to sue later? Yeah, probably. Although they might be required to be joined as a class. It's kind of weird. on that type of issue. But the relationship between Maddox and Jess and the relationship between them in the alleged defamation is strong enough that I think that they would be precluded if they weren't joined. Okay. Her guy is a bulldog. Yeah, what's funny is that her guy is a bulldog, so I guess Dick could have hired Landau then to defend against him, right? So then Leroy asks, come on. Come on, Internet. Doesn't Jess have a restraining order on her for contacting the place where Dick's girlfriend works or something like that? Then she says to avoid double jeopardy, he can file in federal court. No. Not necessarily. However, they have to prove civil rights were violated. Yes, that's why I think she has his phone. She is nuts. Perhaps this will encourage them to split. She leeches off of him. Oh, that's a shame. I was thinking that Maddox probably leeched off of her. Can Maddox sue his own lawyer for bad representation? At this point, it really depends on what was said between Maddox and his lawyer. And we don't have access to that information, so I can't say for sure. But I think he should definitely be talking to an attorney about how Landau has conducted this case. We'll leave it at that. I can understand being with a person who is wrong for you, but I have no idea why Maddox went with that lawyer and kept him after you gave him a better one. Many say I have interest in him. I would say so if true. He isn't my type. Yeah, Maddox isn't anyone's type. I would kill him if I had to deal with his issues more than 48 hours straight. Lol. My guy is in San Francisco at a corporate firm and expensive, but proven. I wonder what her version of expensive is, because Landau is expensive, at least to me. His guy had no firm. Wrong. The Landau Group is a firm that's been around for over 20 years. Likely a cigarette-reeking office. I doubt it. His office, well, first of all, his office in New York is a rent-an office, so it's not even real. It's just a place where you go, because their main office is in Michigan. And I doubt it's a cigarette-reeking office, because I think in Michigan it's illegal to smoke inside, like most of the states are now. Also, New York City, why? The only pertinent question she's asked. George is also cheap. Her husband was a lawyer. Legal knowledge is not learned through years of study. The Socratic method through work in legal clinics or litigation. It is transmitted via semen. The Paraphis, yes, I am blocked by her, though I will say I was nothing but polite to her. So she should not have blocked me. I did nothing wrong. There's certainly no smoking in rented offices, and I think there's no smoking in the state of Michigan and workplaces as well. This is my guy. I grew up with him and a good friend. Spent something. I put like 1 second of effort into trying to find this guy, but then I didn't. Of course, RMKB is probably the law firm, so it's probably pretty easy to find. This guy had no web page I could find. You couldn't find the Landau Group, you giant idiot. Just Google Kevin Landau. Not a publicity stunt. He took this seriously. Oh, wait. I missed that. It would seem to be a PR disaster, but I could see it being some publicity stunt, but the amount would have to be very small. Funny number, huge, like $78 trillion. It was huge, Leroy. $20 million is huge. $380 million is huge, however you break it down. Let's see. So just texted with another lawyer. This is interesting. You know, our tribe has many to consult. You'll find out later that, well, I don't know if she mentions it here, but she's an Ashkenazi Jew, which means, guys, if you listen to people like Jordan Peterson and Stefan Molyneux, she is amongst the ethnic group that is the, on average, most intelligent on the earth. So she had the highest chance of being highly intelligent. Turns out she's a giant idiot, so I guess she's bringing the curve down. So just texted with another lawyer. You know, our tribe has many to consult, and right now I'm kind of embarrassed about reaching out to Spence yet. Lawsuit was dismissed without prejudice. Wrong. Means he had no claim and usually a sign of bad lawyering. No. No, that's not what that means. It without prejudice means kind of the opposite, that there might be a claim there. Sign of bad lawyering, maybe. If it was rewritten to make sense and actually have legit tort in it, it could go forward, no double jeopardy. Well, yeah, against Asterios. It can't go forward against Dick because it was dismissed with prejudice. Same with Foundation Digital, Bozer. Same with probably Patreon. Same with Weber Shandwick. You can't just rewrite it and try again. There's a limit on this stuff. They can raise it in California under different issues because it's in California and it's outside of the jurisdiction, but you can't just rewrite it and raise it again in New York. You failed. No one won, no one lost. Wrong. Maddox lost. Maddox lost. The judge basically said, this is crap and come back when you have a real tort. Without prejudice also has nothing to do with content, such as the losing sponsors. I think that is the heart of the case. That's because you're stupid. Several $100,000 were lost due to Dick's alleged actions. No, they weren't. Guys, according to the complaint, which is a giant lie, Maddox lost $7,200 a month from Harry's. That's it. That's what he lost. And that is a massive lie. There's no way on earth that Harry's was paying $7,200 a month to Maddox. That is a complete fabrication. Since this chick obviously knows everything about law, she can be Maddox's lawyer for a suit in California. That'd be great. Yeah, that would be so good. Okay, so here we go. If he is serious, I have a feeling I will be seeing him up here in San Francisco soon. He's in LA and Spence is here. I doubt it. I don't know if he can afford a bus fare up to San Francisco. Yeah, I guess not, James. But women should. There are plenty of competent female attorneys. Seems that way. I just do not understand why file in New York, why hire a bad layer, why get upset over an ex, why file such a large lawsuit, even suing Patreon. I agree, she says. Or is that, yeah. IDL. Seems Maddox could have just said America's wingman got the best sloppy seconds in the universe or something in line with the Maddox persona. I don't know George except from videos, that Ooga Booga movie and podcast, but it seems that he holds grudges for a long time. So then she just goes ahead and just blasts Mormonism. How much popcorn did you consume watching the meltdown following this DM leak? It was the most spectacular fits I've ever seen. I was on the road, so I didn't have popcorn, but I had a lot of Skittles. So yeah, he grew up Mormon and was racially abused at school, was deprived of lots of stuff in his childhood. These things make us who we are, for better or worse. Good job, armchair psychologist. George is the kind of person who goes out of his way to help people in small ways when he can. I have a save the world complex, so I attract these types often. Oh, great. Look, the narcissism of this person is just disgusting. Double post. So here we go. This is a good money shot. I just consulted a proper Jewish lawyer who already knows the case. He is independent, no firm, however a good litigator. He usually argues tort matters having to do with intellectual property, but often takes on all kinds of cases and wins. Having no firm and being a Maddox fan, he may be a cheaper option. And being a Maddox fan, guys, can you imagine? Oh, I want to know his name. I want to know his name. However, I still think in somewhat higher profile cases, going in with big guns, a firm behind you is better. Yeah, listen, I'm an independent litigator. I have just me at my firm. I do all of the work. And if you want to win a giant case with tons of stuff to pour through and research, hire a giant firm with lots of people and pay a ton of money for it. Do it. If you can afford it, do it. But you know, there are great independent attorneys out there as well. So this is just, you find the attorney who can win you the case. I'll give George space and give him Dave's contact in a few days. He needs to decompress. I know this about him. He, other lawyer, too, is in San Francisco. Oh, great. Then he says, is it bad that I know about law through the lens of Better Call Saul? And that's the end of it. You know, she has a lot of posts here, which are great. I am not logged into Twitter. This is why I can still see her posts. Let's see. Let's see what the last thing she said about it. Some of these people tweet so much that it's just astounding. I don't understand it. If anyone has come here in regards to Maddox rules and blocking you, please realize you've become a sheep for a man who could give two poops about you. I find it rather unfortunate. I'm sure most of you aren't bad, just looking for a safe space, and you found it in Dick. I can pay you in hugs. Yep. Yourself not included. Yourself not included for what? So let's see, what has she got? Gosh, this person tweets so much. It's insane. Let's see. It's not the end of it. She blew up recently about the leaks, threatening to dox and go after licenses. If I understand correctly, she deleted the tweet that said she was going to violate the law and dox people through her medical software, right? Like, because that was smart. Probably just put her nurse's license on the line. What a dumb idiot. And you'll find this over and over with the ardent defenders of Maddox, that they don't think about what they're doing at all. Like they have this weird idea that they're morally correct, which they're not often morally correct, and that they can do whatever and it's justified. So she's a real gem. She's a real gem. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna wrap this stream up. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes. I really appreciate you stepping in tonight and watching this. Keep your eyes open for announcements about the video. Hopefully a live stream of the full rereading of the transcripts with guests, followed by a Q&A session. Keep your eyes peeled for interviews coming up. We'll be talking to hopefully multiple lawyers involved in the case. And of course, once the case is fully resolved, we'll talk to the lawyers who are who are still involved. Greenberger is obviously still involved. I will give Kevin Landau the opportunity to come on my show and to make his case as well. I highly doubt he will take it, but I will extend the invitation. So announcements on all of this stuff, of course, will follow. Gonna be hard with a strike. Okay. Sure, buddy. Sure. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. I apologize about the weird ASMR thing, but when I get back home, of course, it will be normal loud self. Keep your eyes peeled, of course, as well for that Jamal Eigel video, as well as some other stuff that is out there. I've heard that Stan Lee has filed a $1 billion lawsuit against someone, and I will be taking a look at that. There's an interesting Supreme Court decision today. There's a lot to go over. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna blank out the screen. We're gonna wrap this up, and as soon as I see it go blank on my end, of course, then I will. I'll shut the stream down. Thanks again for everything, and stay tuned. If you have any requests for content or have any ideas, of course, send me messages. You can contact me just about anywhere. So, you guys have a good night. Peace.